Hello everyone, I'm back with another video and this one is a very fun one. Why business is the most competitive sport in the world. This is one that I've kind of been brewing on, sitting on for a long time, but really wanted to kind of think about it and piece it all together before I actually release it. I'm super excited to record this and bring it to you guys. So yeah, let's just get right into it. All right, so obviously, I want to talk about why business is the most competitive sport in the world, right? Why I believe it's sport and why I believe it's competitive. So, first off, let's just compare business to the other sports, the major ones, the three major ones that I think are all the toughest in their categories. The pinnacles of athleticism, this is not necessarily sport, but athleticism, are the NHL, right? So I think the NHL is the hardest team trophy to win in all of sports. These guys go through real grueling stuff. I know NFL and football, that's very, very difficult. But the pace that hockey players play at 82 games a year, plus best of seven series, playoff series that are extremely physical. I would even argue maybe a little bit more physical than football in some regards, depending on the positions you're playing and such and such. I think the NHL kind of takes the cake as the hardest team trophy to win. In all of sports, you have to have extreme endurance, you have to have extreme stamina, you have to have extreme discipline, resolve, and skill to be able to fly around there and play at the pace that these guys play at. So, yeah, I think the Stanley Cup is the hardest team trophy to win in all of sports, right? These guys play 82 games, October through April, and the playoffs are from May to June. So if you make it to the playoffs, you make it to the end, you've only got a couple months to rest before you're back in the fray with everyone else. Now, the UFC slash kind of MMA, it's mixed martial art as a sport. UFC is really what's known in the mixed martial arts community. They do it pretty much every weekend, maybe every second weekend. They have events that go on. The way that they have it split up is there's fight nights, and that's kind of just like a tinier fight card with maybe one or two really good fights at the top, although there's debate about whether or not that's even been the case the last couple of years. A lot of the fight nights have been very lackluster. But then they do main cards once a month that are usually stacked with, a lot of fights that a lot of people are excited about. Those are pay-per-view matches, and you can pay it's a pay-per-view that you can pay to kind of go see and whatever. And those are the big cards that they hold in a really big arena and try to sell the whole thing out and really promote it, and yada, 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 right? So I believe that you must be the most skilled and disciplined athlete to win the world championship. When it comes to mixed martial arts, right, you need to know takedowns, you need to know takedown defense, you need to know striking, you need to know striking defense, grappling defense, you need to know all of these things. You need to know it's not just with boxing, you got two options. You got this hand, you got this hand. When it comes to mixed martial arts, you got your elbows, you got your knees, you got kicks. Pretty much anything goes as long as it's not a cheap shot, pulling hair, kicking in the balls or stuff like that. It's anything goes, right? So you have to be extremely skilled, not only to be able to inflict all of those weapons on your opponent, but then also to be able to defend against those weapons coming from your opponent, and then incredibly disciplined, incredibly tough to be able to take shots to the chin like these guys do, to be in the physical condition at any time to go in there and fight. And especially when you get to that world championship level, it takes an extreme amount of skill and an extreme amount of discipline to win the world championship. So I think that's the most skilled world championship, most skilled single athletic feat that you could do is win the UFC World Championship, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to UFC as well, like I said, yeah, every weekend and the main cards are once a month. So that's a schedule for that. The schedule to all of these things is very important, but also keep in mind that the athletes only fight typically 2 times a year is considered active. 3 times a year is very active. It's very rare that you'll get, especially at the higher levels, you'll get guys fighting more than, twice a year or 3 times a year. That's a very active for fighting. So even though the UFC operates every weekend, guys are really only fighting once every 6 months. So now for Formula One, it's an 18 to 24 race season from March to November. That just depends on the season, what kind of tracks that they can get scheduled and stuff like that. Like, for example, I believe there's 22 rounds this year, and next year they're going to be doing 24 rounds, right? So it kind of varies, but typically it's about 18 to 24. I think it was 18 in COVID in 2020 or something like that, when they had to cancel a bunch of different tracks and circuits. But anyways, I believe that this is the most difficult championship to obtain in all of athletics. I don't think it's the most skilled necessarily. I think it's MMA, but it's the most difficult because not only do you have to be skilled, you have to have the money, you have to be able to wade through the politics, you have to be good for the sponsors, you have to be able to cope with pressure. There's so many, you have to, and then once you actually get to Formula One, in order to win the championship, you have to string together a good rookie season. There can't be any mistakes. You have to hope that you get placed in the right team, or that the right team notices you, that you have a car under you, that you can win the championship. You have to really pray that the car actually works and that, you're able to get there, because you might have the best car, but if it breaks down all the time, you're losing points. So there's a lot of things that are out of your control when it comes to Formula One, and that's why I think it's the most difficult championship to obtain in all of athletics, because it's based on a lot of things that aren't necessarily really in your control. Whereas with MMA, it's the opposite. Everything is completely in your control. And you need to, everything in a fight is totally in your control, how you defend, how you move your body. So it's a little bit different than that, but I think it's the most difficult championship to obtain in all of athletics. Right? So now let's compare these sports to business, right? So business goes all year round. When it comes to business, there is no 82 game season. There is no every weekend main cards once a month. There's no 18 to 24, rounds from March to November. It is all year round. And in fact, weekends, holidays, and after hours are what separates the winners from the losers. The guys who are able to and gals who are able to actually work those hours, the guys who are able to actually be there. I'll give you an example right now. I went to go buy a new computer recently, and there were a couple of shops I was looking at. It was a public holiday, I believe, for the Queen's funeral, but I really needed to get some work done. I needed to get things rolling. So Best Buy was open. They got my business that day, right? That's just the way it is. Like, I needed it on that specific day. I couldn't wait till, the Tuesday or whatever else. So they got my business because they were open at that time. Holidays, after hours, that's what separates the winners from the losers, right? As well as that, you're also competing with every industry all the time without a single break. As a business owner, like, you are constantly competing with everyone, not just in your own industry, right? Like, for example, as an advisor, that $5,000 that they might want to spend on your insurance plan or your financial advising services or whatever it might be, you're also competing for that $5,000 with the mortgage that they're saving up for their, kids' retirement fund, a new car. You're competing with every single industry, whereas these guys in Formula One, they don't have to worry about the guys in the UFC. The guys in the UFC aren't going to take their Formula One championship. Vice versa, the guys in UFC aren't worried about people from Formula One coming up and trying to kick their ass, right? So you're competing with every league, right? Every industry, all of the time, without a break. You don't get a break from it again, because it goes all year round. So you have to compete with every industry and every league all the time, all year round. And in fact, the least convenient times are the best times for you to actually work and get things done. On top of that, you need to be in incredible mental shape to be able to actually sustain this amount of pressure coming at you. And personally, I truly believe that you should be in good physical shape. I think a good body produces a good mind. So I think you need to be not only, right, a business professional, but an athlete on top of that, right? So I say sport. When I say business is a sport, let me pull up the exact definition of a sport. What is a sport here? And let's see. An activity involving exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So this is a competitive game, but at the same time, you can look at business kind of like a competitive game. Like for example, a lot of the things that I do in my business really comes down to it being for sport, right? I was a basketball player in high school, very, very competitive. Wasn't the best at it, but I was very competitive nonetheless. And that really translated here where I have buddies who also own agencies or do other stuff. And, we compete with each other all the time and try to push each other, how many, clients can we sign this week? How many clients can we fulfill for this week? Who can have the longest retention rate for their clients? Who can do the best? And it's all really uplifting and positive competition that we all put on each other in order to push ourselves to be not just better business people, but better people in general. But it's a sport. We're competing against each other. We're doing this to try to make ourselves better. We're competing. So it is a sport. It's not necessarily a physical sport as much as, NHL or UFC or whatever it would be. You don't necessarily need to be an athlete to compete in this arena and to compete in this sport. But it still is a sport, and that's the way that I view it nonetheless. And I think, again, you need to be in incredible mental shape. I don't think anyone would argue that. A few people might argue that you need to be in good physical shape, but that's what I believe. And for me, that's something that I take very seriously. So the way that I look at it, I need to be an athlete on top of a business professional, right? So that makes it even harder. Also, keep in mind that you must go through all the rigorous teamwork of hockey, right? You have people that you're either working with, people you're employing, people you're doing whatever with. You're working, any good business, you're working in a team with other people who are helping you be better, who are helping the business succeed. So you need to have all the rigorous teamwork of hockey, these guys who learn how to run the plays and do the practices in the room and whatever. You need to have all the discipline and the skill of a fighter, right? Like, for example, for me, if I'm a lead gen specialist, I need to know lead gen the same way a hockey player knows the same way a fighter knows how to fight, right? Like I need to know my skill set and I need to be disciplined in keeping that skill set sharp as new iOS updates filter through, as new updates from Meta or Facebook filter through. And I have to kind of process this information and know how to kind of have this, how my skills translate to these new things. I need to have that discipline to stay on top of the game and the skill of the fighter. I also need to go through all the politics and the rapid precision and decision-making of an F1 driver as a business owner, right? So there's, F1 in and of itself is a gigantic business, right? It's a whole bunch of incredibly large automobile corporations fighting to build the fastest car, right? These are all businesses who are competing against each other, right? And again, this just goes to show how business is sport. Business has been intertwined in sport for so long. Business has always wanted to be a part of sport. You look at Nike, who sponsors the NBA. You look at Adidas. These are clothing companies. You look at automobile companies sponsoring F1. You look at banks sponsor F1. You can look pretty much every industry is involved or tries to be involved in sports somehow, right? So you need to be able to wade through all the politics that come with, what maybe F1 would come with or something else. And you need to be able to make those rapid decisions that those guys can make, right? When you have a business that's doing really, really well, and all of a sudden you have an employee quit and, you need to find somebody good and you need to find them in a pinch and you're going 300, kilometers an hour in your business and you got to judge that breaking point just right, stop everything for just the right amount of time, find a new person, get them in there, turn the car around, right? It's very, very, very rapid. So you need to do all the rigorous teamwork of a hockey player, all the discipline and skill of a fighter, and go through all the politics and decision-making that an F1 driver goes through. So you need to do all of this. You need to work year-round, weekends, holidays, and after hours if you're really trying to get off the ground and you're really trying to be extremely competitive. You need to compete with every single industry in the world, and you need to be in incredible physical and mental shape. That is why I believe business is the most the most competitive. Well, it's both. It's both the most difficult and competitive sport in the world. This is just an opinion piece, guys. This is just how I view it. Hopefully it was able to kind of give you guys maybe a bit of a different perspective or a paradigm shift. That's really what I recorded this for. But something that really meant a lot to me, and this is the way that I've thought about my business for a long time. So I don't know, maybe it's something that'll help you guys, right? So keeping all this in mind, we designed our exclusive lead system for business professionals with this competitive knowledge to help you save time and give you an edge on the competition, because we know how valuable that is. When you're going through all the stress that I described here, anything that can save you time, give you an edge on the competition, and make your business more profitable is 100% something you should be interested in. The way that we do that is through our done-for-you multi-dimensional lead generating process, right? So we specialize in TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook lead generation ads. We've also ran a little bit on Google and LinkedIn as well, but we mainly focus on those 3 platforms. We have an anti-fragile system where, for example, let's say your Facebook ads go down. That way you still have TikTok and Instagram up. So you're always generating leads through this system. There's always a constant lead flow coming through. We have a lot of results we posted on our website for leads if you're curious to know more about that. We also have, on top of that, lead nurturing processes to help capture more lead conversion. So we have email and text campaigns in the back end where as soon as the actual leads come in through Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, they get sent to email campaigns, sent to text campaigns that are pushing them to convert on your service. The system is set up so that you'll never need to do any cold outreach again. So if that's something you're doing now and you'd be looking to switch to something more like this, I would be absolutely happy to give you a quick 15-minute walkthrough, show you exactly how we're generating 20 to 30 extra appointments for financial advisors and insurance agents a month. We also make that guarantee for you that you will get at least 20 to 30 depending on the system that you go with. So yeah, if you're interested in that, just shoot a comment or a DM down in this video or in my Facebook, Instagram, wherever you'd like. Hope that, again, this was able to give a bit of a paradigm shift for those of you watching. And yeah, take care. Have a nice day.